Hey, what's good everybody? My name's Alchemy. Welcome to Forbidden Science YGO. I called the channel this because I run another YouTube channel called Alchemy under ALCKEMY with music production, and you're going to be listening to some of the music over here in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. With that, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I am really excited to talk about this White Force deck that we have. But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the main deck, then the extra deck, then the side deck, but I also want to cover some other tech options that are over here on the right, and then we'll go into some test hand stuff that I can kind of lead you through in order to get to some insane inboards. This deck does have a lot of weaknesses, primarily the Charmies, Droll, and Bestials, but if you can try to play with the mindset of don't let them stop you rather than stop them, then you've got a killer deck that is almost unbeatable. And we'll go through that here in a sec. Dope. So let's start off with the Toy Box engine. And yeah, we'll kind of just go through and I'll talk about why. Honestly, just opening up right off the bat, we've got 3 Toy Box, 1 tank, and 1 soldier. If you're not playing White Forest with Toy Box, what are you even doing? This is such a helpful extender to getting into so much stuff. It also helps with your Fiendsmith stuff. It can help you get into other things if you want to play other Link engines and whatnot. This is so generic and splashable that it really helps open up a lot of options for your White Force stuff because it depends on sending a spell or trap to the graveyard for a lot of cards. It's not a must. I just think that it's so beneficial and I can't see myself playing without it, although you can replace this engine with other things if you desire. This is probably one of the most synergistic, I guess, so to speak, packages that you can add. We've got 1 Fabled Lurie, Lacrima, Engraver, and Tract. This is really all you need. That and the extra deck stuff. But for the most part, you could probably even just get away with these 2. Just because you can get into Moon of the Closed Heaven generically, and then have these 2 be sent to the deck if you don't want to play these. But this is just, you know, hey, if you have a Tract and you've got a White Force card, you want to bait this first, so that way they have to play through your Fiendsmith stuff. And that's what makes this package so annoying, is that you go through all of the trouble to, you know, get to the end of this, and then you say, normal summon Sylvie, and then they're just like, right? That's, yeah. People say that this package is not toxic, but it's totally toxic because it just eats through all your hand traps. That being said, if you have it, it could be in your benefit. We're going to go through the Sinful Spoil stuff in the one-ofs. So we've got 1 Diabell, 1 Queen Azamina, 1 Elzat. This card is really good. It's great for synchro. It's also great if you need to do like a really fast fusion to get a negate out. The one thing that I would say that this deck does really well against is Nibiru, just because it's like, okay, well, you killed all my bodies and sent them to the grave. I have all these other options now. We'll talk more about that later. I do play 2 Wanted. 1 is for the search. The other one is more so just for using the Hollowed Azamina. Because you can use this to get the Saint Azamina out from the extra deck. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Also, being able to banish this in order to send back a card is really nice. 1 Tales of the White Forest, I only need 1. 1 Deception, again, only need 1. Sinful Spoils, I never use this. This is more if you want to play Guardian Chimera, but to be honest with you, it's not even in my extra deck. But if for whatever reason they stop your normal summon and you have something else or whatever, then you can utilize this to kind of help overplay like an Ash or, you know, something else of the sort. It's more of a defensive card for me than anything. 1 Hallowed Azamina. We use this twice in our combo and it's just awesome. I do feel like this is a custom card because of how crazy this plays around getting all of your fusion summons out. Sylvie, we need 3 of those. Sorry. Most important normal summon in my opinion. These 2 in particular, the Sylvie and the Rusia, are what makes this deck so crazy. A light level 4 tuner, this one being a special summon if you have another White Force monster out, just makes this absolutely cracked. With the new support coming out with Alliance Insight of turning your level 2s, I believe, into your tuners, this is going to give this a lot more agency because it'll open up the doors for some of the other packages that I'll show you in a second. But yeah, it can get pretty sick. That being said, we are playing 3 Elzat. I would almost rather see Sylvie than Elzat, to be honest. Just because even though this is great, if you normal summon this, you don't get the search. So you have to have another card in order for this to become active. And sometimes you might get something like a Crossout Designator, which You dish the Designator to summon the LZ, but then they Nibiru you, or sorry, they Ash you, or they Molcharmy you, or, you know, whatever, and then that sucks. So I would rather see the Sylvie, to be honest, and then utilize one of these. That's pretty much it for the White Force package, though. That's all I play, and it usually does the job. This is a relatively consistent deck. I think 1 out of 15 hands I'll brick, just from doing, like, taking notes about being, like, test hand 5, 5, 5, 5, because you can run that on the apps or whatever. The other thing that I will say about this deck as well is that you can pretty much play this almost the exact same on Master Duel, and that's a lot of fun. It's very satisfying. Of course, you can do EDO Pro and stuff, but I don't know. I like Master Duel. 3 crossout Designators. This is the most important defensive option in the game. In the deck. And the reason why is because I don't play 3 of all of the hand traps. I play 3 Imperms, which you'll see in a second, but I play 1 Veiler, 1 Ash. I only have Molcharmy Meows, which I side deck, but this is going to help you against Droll, which I play 1 Droll. That along with a Called by the Grave, but you really want to see these. I can't stress that enough, and you want to try to keep these in your hand in case if somebody tries to play against stopping your entire combo. It's like, there's an initial startup that makes this dangerous, but if you can get past the initial startup, it's full on gas, and like you just decimate the inboard. It's awesome. But you know, every deck has its weakness. That's just something to be mindful of. 1 Black Goat. This is something that you can actually take out if you want, but I like it because if you set it, it's their turn. You go, I call out Raziel Detonator. They can't use it. Banish the card. Next time, you know, it comes back to your turn, you say, oh, I'm going to dish this out and, you know, banish it or whatever, Abyss Dweller. Or, you know what I mean? Something like that. Maybe, I don't know if you can do this during the draw phase or whatever compared to whatever, but this is really nice. 1 Ash. I know, I'm probably insane. We play 2 more in the side deck if you need it, but this is mostly for the crossout target as opposed to actually relying on it. This deck is all about don't stop me rather than stop them, but what can you say? Imperms. These are the generic negates. That's why I like them. They're not once per turn, so they're probably the best hand traps in my opinion. 1 Veiler, primarily for the crossout target. You can also crossout target a triple tax talent, crossout target a Droll and Lockbird, crossout target a Call by the Grave, and then we actually have 3 sleeper hand traps, which are your Bystials, which are also crossout targets. So these are kind of what I try to play for the defense against somebody trying to wreck my day about being like, no, I'm going to Bystal you. No, I'm going to Droll you. If they have Molcharmies and they start getting draws, then that's okay. You can actually play through it and pretty much in the turn if you're on turn 2. If you're on turn 1, you want to be a little bit more, you know what I mean, selective. But to be honest with you, there's not a thing that they can draw if you get turn 2 and you get a full board out because you just destroy them, which we'll do in our test hands. Let's talk about the extra deck. It's a little bit different. We've got a Saint Azamina. We've got, I guess I'm going to try to do this in somewhat organized order, Silvera. And then we have an Arceolago. You can absolutely tech these out for the Moa Regina or the other one if you want to, but I find that these 3 are honestly more for utility than anything. This is a negate. It is great. The extra effects are awesome, but they're not part of my main strategy just because of how easy they are to get back. And you end up getting other negates anyways. So we'll talk more about that in a bit. We do play the Silvera, and then we also play the Arceala. Obviously a Book of Moon, which does not come up often within this, and then Arceala. You could honestly get away with taking this out the way that I play this deck. This one is important in case if you need the extender, but I'd say like this one is a must. You can take this out. You also can take out Saint Azamina, although I would prefer not to based off of the way that I play. The thing about these though is that if you do not go through the combo and you leave either a Rusia or a Sylvie, you can bring it back and immediately synchro summon, provided that you've got a level 2 and get this back in. You'll also notice that I'm not playing a Stellar in this deck. Yeah, I just don't... It has a lot of gas, but it's pretty vulnerable, and so I decided to take it out. I do have them, maybe I'll bring them back for Alliance Insight. Next up, we've got the other most important thing, which is the Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is so imperative because of how many other synchro monsters we play in this deck, and this is our protector. You need to go through this before you get through these, and unless if they forbidden droplet you or something, you can generally play through most stuff by either saying, oh, they're targeting my Chaos Angel, I'll Blazer it. Oh, they're targeting, you know, if they forbidden droplet you, that kind of sucks. We'll talk about defense against that later in the video, but there is something to play against that with some cool strategy. And if I hadn't said it already, because I've tried to film this video quite a few times already, so forgive me for forgetting, this deck is so non-linear. There are so many ways to get to cool stuff that it really is all dependent on what your hand is and what interactions you have. But I will say, as long as you can get past that first initial summon, you know, or you can beat out the Droll, you're going to be all right. Next up, we've got a couple of other spicy tech options. We have a Bestial Dissipator. This is more of a defensive card that you go into than anything else. We have our Crimson Dragon. Obviously, you need that for the Legatia. This gives you a draw and a destroy if you're playing turn 2, but turn 1 just a draw. This is your Omni Negate, obviously, which is awesome. This you need to say, oh, you pull this out first, you bring this out, then you replace it with a Cosmic Blazer, and then it's very difficult to lose if you get a Cosmic Blazer out because of how strong it is. If they stop you for whatever reason, let's say they try to Bestial you and you've got one, and they try to banish one of your cards that's really important, you say no, you bring out one of your own Bestials, and then you can go into a Dissipator that will give you a negate, which is really nice. And it's all going to depend on how you like to play or whatever. I never see this, but it is cool to have it. Then we have our Fiendsmith package. So Moon, generic, why? Requiem, Sequence, Desiree, and then this is another tech option, which is Abyss Dweller. You can use this for the side deck, which we have Ultimate Slayer. It's a generic rank 4 Xyz target that actually has a lot of utility if you need it, but I almost never see it. What I will say is, except for this one and this one, turn 1, we go through almost all of these, except for maybe this one. But everything else comes out at one point or another, which is really fun, really awesome. And it is a long combo deck. That's why this video is going to be very long, but you can't take these two out without it affecting the deck pretty much at all. SP Little Knight might be a better option or whatever, but yeah, it's pretty cool. The reason why I don't play SP Little Knight is because Malice exists, and it can help you, I guess, but it's kind of one of those win more cards now these days, I feel, with how banishing and returning stuff has kind of gone out and played. It's not a bad card by any means, it's just not nearly as crazy during this Night Guys format. Let's talk about our side deck. 3 triple tactics, 2 Ash, there's our hand traps, 2 Droll, 3 Meows. These are the only ones that I own. I bought these while they were relatively cheaper after they came out from Supreme Darkness. And the reason why is because the other reprints are already out, and I'm like, it's going to be a while before this one comes back out, even though it's not the most useful, but you can absolutely replace this with Perulia or Fuelos when Bonanza drops. I know that I have a lot of cards, but I don't spend, you know, $60, $80, whatever, to get my whole playset, QCR, max out bling or whatever. I'm like, I just need to get what I can to try to budget and to try to, you know, just have a playable engine. Let's get into some Malice hate, and sometimes with Lightning Storm or whatever, this can be helpful. What's that one stupid card that allows you, or that negates all light monsters? It's a trap card. Yeah, something like that can be helpful for this, even though you never see that except for in Master Duel. But for whatever reason, if they have something that you need to get rid of, you know, sometimes you'll see a Nightmare Pain or something of the sort. This can be nice for going second. The cool thing about this, though, is that obviously this is just more defensive options for the most part. So this is kind of where I want to talk about the branches. And forgive me if you're like wanting to skip ahead to get into the combos and stuff, but I think that it's important to talk about because what makes this deck so cool in the first place are all the options that you can replace this with without even necessarily getting rid of the Fiendsmith or the Toy Box stuff. There's about 7 cards in here that I'm comfortable with getting rid of. I guess we can kind of just go through that. So you can get rid of this. You can maybe take out an Imperm. You need at least one, I would say. You can take out a Black Goat Laughs. And then you can remove one of these and even one of these without disrupting the deck too much. Actually, if you really wanted to and you're really fighting for engine space, you can still access everything that I'm going to go through by taking these cards out without maybe even another toy box. I think playing at least 2 is pretty important. So this would be if I need to switch things up drastically. My last resort would most likely be the Imperm, but all of this other stuff, you can still get to your full combos and all that by taking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 cards to play with. And none of these are like, you know what I mean, absolute requirements. It just depends on what you want to do. This is great because I'll leave this out. If we look at some of the other options that we have, especially for side deck stuff, what I would recommend is most likely keeping the Lancias in, Malice Hate, probably the Charmies. So 6, that means that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, 9 cards even. Maybe even keep the Lightning Storm in for side deck engine swapping or for just generic side decking in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And so because of that, I want to talk about these other engines that you can play and be able to utilize. We're only going to talk about combos with the main deck, but I do want to just introduce to you some ideas that you can play with just for fun. First one is Mitsurugi. If you replace Abyss Dweller with King of the Feral Imps, you can, I would recommend most likely like, I don't know, something like 2 Saji, 2 to 3 of these, 2 to 3, or 1 to 2 of these, and then probably 2 of these, and then extra options, whatever. I think this in general is more than enough. I think this is 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can take this one out, or you can take out an Ame. Just depends on how you want to run it. But yeah, and then you'll need to side out one of these. So, but you can, or you can even play 7, right? If you really wanted to, you can actually take out a Saji, or you can take out a Prayers, or you can take out a Ritual. There's options. It just depends on how you want to run it. But you use your Sylvie and you use your Rusia. You can even use Lacrima if you want to get into your King of the Feral Imps, depending on what your hand is, and then play a Mitsurugi engine if you want. The next one that we have is the Terrorizer from Master Duel, which is your Snake Eyes Doom Dragon. You can replace this again with your Abyss Dweller or something else if you want, but we can play a relatively small package. You don't actually have to play the Spooky Dogwoods, but something that might be worth considering is these guys, which is 2 Golem, 2 Sangenjin, Spooky Dogwoods, Wedju Temple. You can take these out and then replace this with Psychic and Punisher or whatever, and kind of run that line, which is kind of cool. I haven't tested this a lot, but I know that it exists, and as you can see, I've got these engines branched off for when I do play testing with friends and all that, but it is an option. My least favorite is the branded, or sorry, not the branded, but the Lubellians. And there are more options. I just kind of want to show you some things that I've thought about. Like you can even add Raziel if you want to, but I haven't tested it out yet. And I don't really want to, even though I do have the Raziel engine. But this is another option that you can utilize. Psychic and Punisher along with the Diabell Star can be pretty nasty, just because you can get some stuff. You might want to consider, you know, doing a mix-up of the Spooky Dogwood or something for whatever reason. But in my testing with this package, these in particular, I bricked a lot. And I don't know why. I guess it's just because of the ratios or whatever. But I actually tried this first before I even tried the Fiendsmith stuff, and I kept running into like really strong choke points that I'm like, I don't want to play through that. That could be bad. However, the Moa Regina, the Elzat, Psychic and Punisher, SP Little Knight are all great candidates to swap out. Like, let's say if you don't want to go the Blazer line, you can swap those out instead. But this is just my personal preference and what I enjoy playing. And it's not perfect, but I like it, and they exist, and I want you to be aware of some options that you have. With that being said, let's go ahead and maybe do a test hand, and we can talk about some options. Or what I might rather do is I want to talk about some situations that you have different options when they arise, because generally speaking, if I were to just skip ahead, I'll tell you, your inboard would look something like this. Generally speaking, if like you have a killer, like if you get full combo, this is very practical. Something like this. If you play your extenders correctly, then you might even be able to maintain a Sylvie on this. Or what you might also have is something that could look like this, where it might be a Sylvia, kind of like so. And then you've got a, let me just pull this out. You have either a Rusia or a Sylvie in your graveyard that you can special summon back quickly. Now, I want to talk about this first because of how non-linear these combo lines are, and I don't know what's going to come about. But generally speaking, you can get an inboard like this fairly easy, provided that you play your cards right. We're actually missing... No, we're not. We're not missing one. Now, there's one more boss monster on here, but the reason why I would recommend going for this is because if you pass on this turn, you still have up to 4 negates, right? Because this can be up to 2, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, or sorry, 1, 2, 3. Use these first, use this last. If for whatever reason you get Forbidden Droplet, you say, okay, then what you do is you chain, or you don't chain, on a new chain, you special summon this back by sending your Sylvie or your Arcilla, so one of these two, and then you immediately synchro summon into using these two, or the Rusia or whatever, into your Chaos Angel. And what that does is it protects you, it at least protects these from activated monster effects and from being destroyed by battle. So even if these two become dead, you still have these, and there's, you know, other stuff that you can do to kind of protect yourself against all that. The reason why I'm telling you this is because Forbidden Droplet sucks, but the other thing is that it might be better to hold on to this negate from Sylvia before you end up just dishing it off, you know? And I've lost a couple of games to some sprites with the Mosquito to where I actually misplayed. I actually brought out a Bestial, and they attacked the Bestial with every monster, and I basically ended the game. But I ran out of negates. I ran out of stuff. There's no way to necessarily protect yourself from everything, but that's where these can become dangerous with that. This would actually be your most dangerous one against a sprite deck, because this would be any battle damage that they take. Actually, no, you'd be fine. Yeah, never mind. This would be ideal. But I think I didn't have these two on board, and I had only this, and I brought out a Bestial, and they attacked the Bestial, and that sucked. So you can sit in this pocket for a little bit under the pressure and not do anything. But yeah, you might be wondering, okay, Alchemy, how do you get there? Let's talk about a test hand, which we'll kind of run through candidly, provided I don't brick. I think this deck hard bricks maybe once out of every 15 draws. Most of the time we have at least 2 cards to play. They don't always look great, but you know, that's kind of the thing to consider too, is like you're never going to get a hand that, or you're never going to consistently get a hand that's like all 5 cards playable, you know what I mean? But yeah. Some other things quickly while I shuffle. This has a really good grind game because of the recursion. I like to try to utilize the crossout and save that for when they try to stop me. So, you know, don't dish it if you don't have to. Like, let's say you get an LZ, I think I already mentioned that. Or at least a Called by the Grave or something of the sort, you know what I mean? The other thing is that because this combo line is so non-linear, you kind of want to pick like one strategy, which I'm going to try to do and not talk about the options, and then maybe go back. But you kind of want to like memorize at least one strategy or something and just like play that line, because yeah, you can kind of like lead you into not making as strong of a board, and sometimes that gets frustrating. It takes a really good pilot for this deck for you to kind of play around the stuff, but you know, that's why you use game 1, is you see what they have and then you can adjust accordingly. And then when you talk about adding these other engines, if you want to side that out, this deck becomes absolutely crazy. Yeah. So let's go ahead and flip this around a bit, and then we'll do a quick test hand, and I'll just try to speedrun getting to the end board of something of the sort. We might not get to everything that I showed on that end board, but let's see what we get. No bricks, right? Subscribe for no bricks. All right, we're good. We're cooking. Okay, so well, this is actually a great hand. Even though we don't have a lot to play with necessarily, we do have a lot that we can utilize in which to start building an insane board. So what we'll do is we are going to set Toy Soldier first. What I'll do after that is we will special summon Diabell by sending off the Toy Soldier. We're going to chain 1, chain 2 the Toy Soldier in the graveyard. I don't know if this is actually a chain or a new chain, but I want to find this first, and then I want this to special summon. So let's say that's chain 2. If it's new chain and I haven't memorized what that is, then forgive me. I'm not a pro player. I just know that this is the call to action. But what we'll do is we will find our Deception. This is already specialed. New chain. We will find another level 4. Actually, what we'll do is we'll find a toy box. Sorry. We don't want to play toy box yet because we have this as an extender. So we're going to hold on to this until we actually need it. Because what we can do with this is use it as other material if we need it for whatever reason, right? So the next thing that we can do is let's just kind of play this out normally. We're gonna go Sylvie, and then we're gonna activate Sylvie's effect. That's gonna search us the tails. There's a couple of options that you can use when you get tails. For example, if you want even more extension, then you can grab the LZ. I'm gonna play it a little bit safe and just get into the Tales of the White Forest, and then we're going to grab the Azamina. So we'll play Tales of the White Forest, that'll go to the graveyard, and then we'll pull out the where you at? We will pull out the Azamina of the White Forest. Let's say we don't have a spell or trap to let off, and that would probably be the biggest factor. If you've got a bunch of spells and traps that you can just dish out, then you can let go of it. That would also be a consideration for playing Toy Box first, and then dishing off Toy Box, getting another special summon. But for now, we're just going to stick with, like I said, the safe route, because I know where to go from here. And that's where I talk about the non-linearity with the combos and stuff, right? So what I'll do now is we will reveal the Azamina. If you want to, you can go into a fusion summon from here, but what we're going to do instead is go into a synchro. And from that point, we already have a Deception, but we are going to talk about something here in just a second. We're going to go for Arcila, and we are not going to utilize the effect. If you don't have... You could, but if you don't have a spell and trap, but you have Arusia, you don't necessarily need to do this, but you have a couple of interactions here with this being in the graveyard. But for now, we're just going to go chain 1 in the graveyard, and we're going to get ourselves another Sinful Spoils or Azamina card, I think, or maybe just the Azamina card. We're going to go for Queen Azamina. Once we have this, we have, at the very least, our Cosmic Blazer. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to get into the Hallowed Azamina, and then we'll talk about the other options that we have for summoning, okay? So what we're going to do first is we'll play Deception, and we will chain off our Diabell Star to get the Hallowed Azamina. The reason why you don't, if you have it, want to play the Saint Azamina line first, well, you can, but you're going to end up getting rid of it anyways, so it's kind of redundant. But what I would recommend is a couple of things. I suppose you could, if you really wanted to get into the negate here, but honestly, if they don't Nibiru you now, I think that you're probably okay. But what we'll do is, for the sake of just, again, playing it safe, we will special. Sorry, we need to reveal first by utilizing those. So we're going to reveal the Arcielago and defense. And we will utilize this, send this off, and get into the Arcielago. We're going to activate the Arcielago effect to search for another Azamina or Sinful Spoils card, to which we'll just pull probably this one up, because we can utilize that to fusion summon if we need to. So this is an extra like, hey, just in case. And again, it's going to depend on what it is that you have played out, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But now what we're going to do is a couple of things. I need to get this out before we end our white forest line, otherwise I can't special summon this. If you want to, this would be a good time to discard a spell or trap in order to bring this out. So what I'll do is I'll go here, boom, in order to draw, and then we'll chain this to bring itself back. So we'll get a free card. I don't know what that is. It could be important, probably not. It'll set itself back. Sweet. Which is another Sylvie, which is nice. From this point, options. You can go Chaos Angel from here. You can also go into Legacia. If you have a Bestial, then you could bring out a Bestial, which let's do that. Yeah, let's just talk about options here because that could be really fun. Let's see how far we can get. So what I'll do is I'll banish a card because I have the Bestial. We'll banish the Diabellstar. This is probably the easiest target because we don't need it ever again after we have the initial. And we'll utilize that to get into the Magnum Hut. From this, we need to make sure that we utilize this correctly because this is a tuner. This is a dragon. We go search in phase or whatever, so that way we get another Bestial, and we'll take this and bring out our Bestial Dissipator. You can also go Chaos Angel if you want to, which again we'll talk about in a second, but I think we're pretty okay for now. Yay. So that's that. Now what we can do is we can link these two off, or sorry, not link these off, but we can send these two to the grave, and we can bring out our Legacia. And this is really important because we need this to be on the field before we actually start playing into the Fiendsmith stuff, if we do at all. But just kind of keep that in mind. We go either destroy a card on the thing or just get another draw. Boom. We got an Imperm. Nice. So that's an extra hand trap that we can play through. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to send back the fusion monster to get back our hallowed Azamina. And this is the really important part because with the hallowed Azamina, this is where we will begin to bring out all of our big stuff. So what we'll do is we've got 3 on board. Yeah, we'll do that in just a second, but we still need 2 more cards out or 2 more bodies, so we can do that. We'll play Hallowed Azamina. We will reveal the Saint Azamina, and we are going to send off this one, and this one. You can also chain that if you want to, but just kind of keep that in mind. So this goes to graveyard, right? We'll do that. We will special summon this in defense mode, and you kind of have to be careful here because we do still have a free spot, but because of what we're wanting to do here in a bit, you kind of have to keep that in mind, right? So let's talk about that. The first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to special summon the chain 1, which is the Sylvia. The Zen board is already crazy, by the way, so there is that. Then the second thing that we're going to do, this is going to be great, is we're going to special summon back the Queen Azamina. Because what we're going to do now is we'll take these 2, send these to the grave. Now we've got ourselves Insane, a Chaos Angel. And at this point, you can kind of already guess, like, this is just going to keep building and getting more and more insane. We'll probably leave this up here, actually. So we're not going to build into the Fiendsmith package on this turn, but we will get into everything else, which will be pretty cool. And then maybe what we can do is we can back up, and then you can choose to go into your Fiendsmith stuff instead if you don't want to go into the Dissipator. But we'll talk about that here in just a sec, just kind of looking back at what we have. So because of this, and that's kind of the thing, is we ran out of room. If I had perhaps played the toy box, then we could have kept going. which I guess we still can, but what we'll do is we're going to send this back, and we will special summon either the Rusia or the Sylvie. We might be okay. Then we will synchro these off into our Crimson Dragon. Doesn't matter where you put it. Effect. Take that. Hiya. And now we bring out our Cosmic Blazer. Look at this. Look at this end board. This is insane. Then we play Toy Box. And then with Toy Box, what we do is we get back those other things. So we go here, we go Toy Soldier, and then we go to, where's the other toy one? Okay, so we didn't actually use the other toy, so we can go into our deck and set that. We go boom. We go, we need to find Toy Tank, set that. I believe this is our hand. Then what we can also do is, depending on how you want to end this way, if you would rather not have Azamina, you can actually link these two off. Although we used this for the Chaos Angel thing, so that would kind of not be worth it, in my opinion. But what we can also do is we can take that Sinful Spoils, I believe. Did we use the Sinful Spoils in here? I guess we didn't. So if you used a Wanted, then you could send that back and get an extra draw or whatever. Not that big of a deal. But we can go into end phase, and this is what we're going to end with. So we'll go end phase, bring this back with the Deception. That'll set. And then we can go into the Bestial and have an extra Disruption here. So this is our hand. Place that down. And we've got insane stuff to work with. We've got a Negate or Destroy because we banished this, so we have a monster negate, or we can negate one of their things to send back into the extra deck. With the Toy Box, if they declare an attack, we can destroy a face-down monster. We got lucky, but we ended up having an Imperm, which is probably the first thing that I would go through. We also have, let me see here, negate. This can't be targeted. This also means that your opponent cannot target their own cards in their field, graveyard, or banishment. This protects all of the synchro monsters from monster effects or can't be destroyed by battle. And with this one, any battle damage that we would take would be done to them instead. This is an absolutely phenomenal end board. The only thing that you would change, depending on how you want to end this, is if we take a few steps back and we don't actually go through the Dissipator line. And let's say we actually back up through the Chaos Angel as well. I'm going to try to retrace these steps. Because I believe that we had the Toy Soldier in here, right? So we had something that kind of looked like this. And then we also had something that kind of looked like this, I believe, to where we can just back up a little bit. Sorry, maybe that's in the graveyard. But long story short, if you don't want to go that route, then what you would do instead, where you have the Toy Soldier and perhaps this, is you still might need to link this off depending on how things go. But at any point in time, you can utilize the Toy Soldier, perhaps the Legacia. You want to make sure that you bring out Cosmic Blazer first. But this can still go into Chaos Angel, these two. But you can use any two monsters on the field to get back into your Fiendsmith stuff. So I can't quite recall what we had before we got into this board. But the options were there to, instead of go the Dissipator, or sorry, the Bestial route, yeah, the Dissipator route, we would still end up with Cosmic Blazer. This would be on field, this would likely be on field. We'd probably have this available, and then we might have two other things that are random or so. You know, maybe it could even be something, yeah, I don't quite remember what it was. But at any point in time, you know, you can kind of play that out instead. And maybe we can kind of do one more combo where I show you that line as well. It's going to come down to choices, but do you see how crazy that was? I don't think that I made any misplays either. But let's go ahead and shuffle this back, and then we'll do another test hand to where we focus on pulling out the Blazer along with the Fiendsmith stuff. The thing is like, the only difference if you get quote-unquote full combo is that depending on what you get for your 5th hand draw, you might not get to this. You should still get to this, and get to this. So these 3 are like your core of if they don't stop you or they don't have enough gas to stop you. It's just going to kind of depend on what your hand looks like and how many Sinful Spoils cards you can get to in order to get that second summon out. Because if you don't have another Sinful Spoils card, then you go on the first turn, you'd go Arceolago, and then just bring out your Sylvia. You get rid of this one, send it back to the deck, leave this one out. This is going to be your Chaos Angel target on their turn, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't even know if you all are still with me or not, but I'm trying to make sure that I make sense with all this theory crafting and stuff, but that's why I like this deck. It's super fun. Let's go ahead and do a quick shuffle, and then I will quickly just go through guiding you through the rest of how to play the Fiendsmith package, even if we don't get a Fiendsmith card. Maybe what I could do is just go through the Rusia line along with 4 other generic cards, or sorry, Sylvie line, because that could be helpful. Let's do that, because I don't know what I'm going to get, and that way, as opposed to having to send this back. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we have this, and then I will shuffle and draw 4 more cards. Because this is really the big thing that we need. And the 4 other cards you do need, but when and where and what they are is going to be varied. And so the rest of it isn't really going to matter. And what I would prefer is if I don't have the Deception or the Hallowed Azamina, because that's kind of the thing that we always want to plan for. You never really want to test hands for like best case scenario. You want to test hands for worst case scenario. Because that way you're going to figure out how to play through those options and problem solve, as opposed to, I don't know, let's say you're playing a Raziel deck and it's like, oh, Ice, Sword, Ext, Duo Drive, Node. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's too linear, and like, I don't know, I don't personally like playing that way. But let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Which, a quick reminder, by the way, if you all are enjoying the music, YouTube/alchemy or alchemy.com. That's what I do for a day job. So we did get a Deception, and we did get a Diabell Star, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to play through this one instead, and then I'm going to show you the generic line that I play in case if I don't have these options, okay? So let's go Sylvie. Sylvie's going to get Tails. And we will go into next card. Of course it is. That always happens to me where it's the next draw. We've got Tails. We're going to use Tails. We're not going to use that LZ that we have in our hand, but we're going to find the LZ of the Azamina. Which, for time's sake, by the way, don't shuffle in between each one. Just like if you know that you're going to go back into the deck, just hold it, and then just hold it open. And then when you're done going through your deck, that's when you can do your shuffle. It'll save you time, because this is a combo deck. You want to not slow play, nor do you want to waste your time in case if you need time to think about your other options. So what we'll do is we will special summon. We're going to go into our Synchro. Bring out Rusia. Arcelia? I can't remember. Arcelia? Ugh, these names. We're going to go effect of this to get into our Sinful Spoils. So we do have Deception, which unfortunately, like, yeah, if you don't have Deception, go for Deception. If you do have Deception, just get another Sinful Spoils card. Sure, we can use that one. Actually, what I would recommend is get into where are you? Get into this one, because this one will recur, and that would be the better choice in my opinion. Cool. Now what we can do is we can play Deception, the Sinful Spoils. We do need a monster, so in this case, you know, if you don't have Deception, then you can play the Diabell line. If you have more spells and traps, I don't want to get rid of the Crossout Designator. That's really important, because if they play something like Nibiru, I don't care about, but if they play Droll, or if they play Ash, whatever, you don't want them to stop you. That's the most important thing. So you hold on to that Crossout Designator. If they Bestial you, Crossout Designator. You know, Bestial Charmy would suck. You can play the Charmies in your side deck, whatever, but hold on to this. This is probably your most important protection. So we'll get rid of the Black Witch here. This will go back to hand, and that will get us to our Hallowed Azamina. I messed up, so let's back up real fast. I forgot. I don't have a... yeah, I don't have the Rusia. So from getting this, after the search, from this, I'm going to chain 1, chain 2. Forgot about that. I'm sorry. So because of that, if we go chain 1, chain 2, chain this one first, then chain this, because this is going to wait to resolve. But if you search this, then you can add a card to your hand and then use this to send to the grave. So that's exactly why I was like, hey, this has recursion. So this is our hand right now. We need a spell and trap to not send, because this was already in our hand. Hold on, or chain 2, or chain 1, chain 2, that's also going to chain block this for whatever reason with the chain 2. If they chain 2 this, you already have deception, you're fine, don't worry about it. It can at least get you to whatever. But because we send this to the grave now, we're going to get the best possible outcome by getting to our Rusia, and we'll get this back. So that's really important. Rusia, then with this, we go effect of Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, and that will bring this back into here, and that will set that. Yay. Dope. That was really important. Now with that, now we will activate the effect of Deception, send Diabell Star, and that will get us to our Hallowed Azamina. Hopefully you're still with me. That wasn't too confusing. This is why test handing is nice, because we can discuss these options here and be like, hey, this is what you're really after. And there's nobody to be over our shoulder and be like, you can't do that. Now, this is our hand. Special Summon Rusia. It's really important to get this out while this is here, otherwise you miss your timing. Yeah, it can't be helped. If this goes to the graveyard, if this gets Nibiru'd, 1, 2, 3, 4, our next summon would be Nibiru, so you should be okay. It's still not really a whole lot to worry about. We're going to go into Hallowed Azamina, and we are going to target the Arceolago. And we are going to actually send these two. This is dead anyways, so you might as well send it to the graveyard. We can keep Deception on. We are going to end up sending Deception anyways, but this combination here, for whatever reason, is still helpful because of the extra effects that this has. You know, regarding if it's on turn 2 and they stop you here for whatever reason, and you attack or destroy a card or whatever, then you can use the life point advantage, blah blah blah. But you know, yeah, I'd prefer to do it that way. So with this, we're going to activate the effect, and we're going to get into our Queen Azamina. Queen Azamina. And from this point, you've got a couple of options. You can go into your Chaos Angel. I wouldn't recommend it. I have enough confidence that no matter what happens from here, like, we can still build an inboard, so it should be okay. But what we will do is we will take these two and send them to grave, because we actually want both of these to be in the graveyard. If you get Abyss Dweller, then there would be a totally different combo line that we would try, but maybe I'll talk about that in another video. But what we're going to do is go into Centurion Legacia, and then we will draw one card. Hand trap, right? Super nice. Let's go effective Arceolago. Or sorry, effective the Hallowed Azamina, send Arceolago back into the extra deck. And now we've got this. And now we have this. 2 level 4s, or add up to level 4, which means that we can get into our super awesome boss monsters. So what we'll do is we'll play the Hallowed Azamina. And we will go into targeting Saint Azamina. And send the Queen and the Deception to the graveyard. We are going to chain 1 Saint Azamina, chain 2 Queen Azamina, because what that's going to do is give us a special summon. So this could be a negate, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then bring back the queen. Le queen. And from here we have a lot of different options, which is awesome. The first thing that I'm going to go into is getting to the major negate here and the beat stick, which is the Cosmic Blazer. So we'll take these two before special summoning anything. And that will get us into our Cosmic Blazer from the Crimson Dragon. Effect, place, Crimson Dragon. Cosmic Blazer. And then you're basically protected. You already have 2 negates as well. Within this, there's a couple of things that you can do. If you have the LZ and you're like, they're not stopping me, then you can play that and get into your Fiendsmith package. But now we're at a crossroad here that's really important to consider. The first, if this is all you have, you're totally fine. You're chilling. Because what you can do is wait till the next turn. And if they try to Forbidden Droplet you, you know, and they have 4 cards to send, which is their entire hand, which doesn't make sense, then that's one thing. The other thing that, you know, they could do is like banish a card or, you know, attack one of these cards or whatever. But you want to pretty much use this one first because you don't really have a lot to worry about. If they can beat over this, they're going to beat over this. But any damage that you take, piercing damage, something, like, you'll be okay. If they Raigeki, negate it. I can't really think of anything else that they could utilize to just totally... I guess they could also Dark Ruler you, but that gives you an extra turn anyways. But let's say that. Let's say they Dark Ruler you and you can't negate whatever it is that they do. It's only the monsters that's currently on the field, right? Which is unfortunate. But what you go into next is you say, okay, after they play that, you quick effect. You actually probably want to wait because you don't want to chain 2 because it's going to get on the field first and then it will negate everything. Let them do that. Then on the next interaction, you go quick effect. You're going to bring back Rusia by sending back a Sylvie. And then you can chain this into... because your negate is dead anyways, but you can chain that into Chaos Angel in defense mode. Which is a really annoying thing for them to have to deal with, right? Because now, even though they, you know, negated all of these, now they have to get through this. And that's a really hard thing to do, you know. I guess I suppose if they play their cards right and for whatever reason they have, you know, a Dark Ruler and then they go Raigeki, like that would suck, you know. But the chances of that happening are so slim that I don't think that you have much to worry about. So there's that. Cool. Let's back up. Let's say that they didn't do that and we hadn't actually gone into our end phase yet, but let's say we're back here to where we've got this and then we have not sent back the Rusia yet. Or sorry, the Silvera. So that's still in our graveyard. First order of business that you can do just so happens to be that, let's say we don't want to give this up, right? Just for this hand opportunity. Well, now you can get rid of the cross out because they didn't play through anything else. So now I'm not really worried. But now with this, you go search and you can search for another White Forced Azamina card or whatever. We're going to go Sylvie and get that into our hands. Now what you're going to do is we don't really need the Legatia anyways. So because of that, that's where we get into our Fiendsmith package. And we should have enough spaces in order for us to do this. So you go Moon of the Closed Heaven, send that to the grave. Yay. Fiendsmith Requiem. Yay. Send Fiendsmith Requiem to the graveyard in order to special summon Lacrima. All the Fiendsmith cards are together. You go Lacrima effect to Foolish Burial, the Engraver, right? Fiendsmith Engraver. You say, okay, well, I am going to activate the Engraver effect to special summon itself by sending back, let's go Moon of the Closed Heaven for whatever reason. Because you can get all these back in the graveyard anyways, right? Take these two. Go into sequence. You go effective sequence to take 1, 2, 3 back into the decks, respectively, of the extra deck and the main deck. not going to shuffle for now. Then you bring out the Abominable Fiendsmith Desiree. You leave it in attack mode, defense. Generally speaking, I'll just leave it in defense because if they swing over it, then you protect yourself from damage. Always be respectful of time. That's the most important thing. If you're in game 2 and there's 5 minutes left, defense. Activate this effect. Now this is equipped. Now from here you have your protection. You've got extra recursion on the next turn. If they can't beat it, you have a hand trap, which is an ash. And you can utilize this to get into really whatever you want to do, which is pretty nice. And that's why it is going to be dependent on what your hand is, but because we have that special summon there, you know what I mean, we can kind of just say, hey, like, this is what you have. If you don't have the LZ, unfortunately you don't get into the Fiendsmith stuff. Because we had the LZ in our opening hand, I think it's important to talk about, like, it is going to depend, but all of your cards synergize really well with each other to where you should have enough gas to be able to get to that end board. At the end of the phase, or at the end of, during your end phase, you want to make sure that you get back your Deception, which is really easy to forget. So put that face down. If you did use a Wanted, which I did not, you want to probably utilize that as well to get your free draw. But I mean, dude, like, let's say, you know, we pass turn, whatever. They try something, we go Ash. You don't even have to use a negate. They try something else, you go negate. Or I would use this one second. You go negate. They try something else. You go negate. They, for some reason, get some kind of crazy card that negates all of your monsters. Well, then you go, all right, quick effect. Silvera. Sorry, you don't want to chain it because at the end of their chain or whatever, like when it resolves, then it's all the monsters that are currently on field. So that's what you need to be aware of. However, keeping in mind that you let them resolve, whatever, all of these are negated, then you go new chain. Silvera, send that back, get back your Sylvie or your Rusia. All of the effects are negated, by the way, so you can't do like some cool action, even if it's on your turn and like, discard a spell or trap or whatever and blah, blah, blah. But then it says that you can immediately synchro summon. You go there, you bust out the Cangel, and you are doing even better, right? I do want to talk about one more variation because I already showed you the Bestial line as well, but if for whatever reason, if you do have a Bestial, right, then you essentially have a Dissipator in your pocket. Let's just take that one. You're going to have to be mindful. If you have a board like this, then obviously, like, if you summon this out, then you're not going to have that ability. But let's say you've got something like this, and it's their turn. Right, you've got this in the grave still, and then we need to pull back the Sylvia, so that way this context will make sense. Dissipator, where is this? So, Silvera, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's say you've got one of those in the graveyard, because we're going to send that back. Again, I don't want to get rid of this until the end, because I'm holding that out for Chaos Angel, right? But let's say you have this, and let's say for whatever reason they get rid of all of your stuff. They wipe your board. They Dark Ruler you, or Dark Ruler no more, then they wipe your board. That sucks. But everything goes to the grave. Check this out. All that shit goes to the grave. They activate an effect, right? You chain one of your monsters to, banish one of their cards, or you can banish one of your own if you need to, and you go Bestial Magnum Hut, right? Activate effect to or Bestial Magnum Hut, wait. Any response, whatever. Let's say this resolves. Chain, Sylvia, boom, send that back, get this back out here. Then as a quick effect, and this is why I don't worry so much about getting Dissipator to the end board, you say, immediately after this is here, you can synchro summon. You can use Chaos Angel for this if you want to, but what you can also do is get out that 35 beat stick and go Dissipator. Make sure you activate this first of the search of the end phase. Or if this is a Druisworm, then you can send to grave. But from there, you have a quick effect of a double extra synchro summon of a Dissipator, right? And then because there's a card that's banished, you have an extra interaction to where you can either destroy a monster or negate a monster effect, right? This deck is crazy. It is so crazy with how much gas this has and with how much interaction you have at your fingertips. And like I said, man, like we played through almost every single extra deck card, which we got some back, but like this deck is nuts. And that doesn't even account for all of the other interactions that you can go through instead if you'd rather play these, right? So with that being said, I think that this is probably a good place to end the video, but I mean, dude, like it is so fun, especially when like you start getting the fun interactions and you get the stuff of like having a clap back for pretty much anything that someone gives you. Like I said, it's really only when somebody says, nope, droll, and you have no response. Crap. Well, now you gotta wait for extra turn. That's where Toy Box can also be super helpful too, because you can at least get into like Chaos Angel usually or something, but yeah, it just depends. This deck does brick. Every deck bricks. I think that's really important to remember, but there is enough gas in this to just be like, okay, all right, that's how you want to play. The big things that I have found is not necessarily when the deck does well, it's when things go wrong, and that's why I would say you want to consider, you know what I mean, siding out for your other engines, which I haven't even made my own decision yet with how I want to play this before Alliance Insight. But for the next month, I've got these different options to work with, or I can just run the side deck that I have now for the extra hand traps. I would say experiment. There, in my opinion, is so much stuff that hasn't been realized with this deck profile yet. And I'm really excited to see like what comes about in the future. But hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions or any more cool tech ideas, you know, I know that the Dark Dragoon exists, but I haven't played that. I think I do have a Mud Dragon, but I don't like that interaction personally. I think that it limits you from a lot of the other stuff. But yeah, lots of cool things along the way. Let me know what you all think. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Check out alchemy.com if you want to take a listen to my music, or if you want to learn about music production, check me out on my other channel at youtube.com/alchemy. Bye everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.